The new health secretary has sincerely apologised for a tweet in which he announced he'd made a full recovery from COVID and urged the public to get vaccinated so we could live with rather than cower from this virus. Words which prompted outrage from opposition MPs and people still vulnerable to COVID. But as virus infections halved in a week, the government is determined to use the vaccine rollout to get the country moving again. And one idea that's gaining ground to persuade the young to get jabbed is vaccine passports for Premier League games and major events. It's already happening around the globe, sparking protests. From Italy to Israel and France, where from the middle of last week a pass sanitaire has been a requirement for venues with more than 50 people. In Britain, as in France, the government is facing opposition, not least from its own MPs. Well, joining me now is the senior Conservative MP, Tom Tugendhat. Tom Tugendhat, where is your red line on these COVID passports?
Well, my view is that if you are dealing with particularly vulnerable people, if there's a particular need for you to have a vaccine, as doctors do these days in hospitals, then perhaps there is a case for it. So doctors are already required to have Hep B vaccines, and various other healthcare trusts insist on various other different forms of vaccination. And so I think there's a case for it in such cases as that. But when you're talking about interfering with people's lives, I think you need to be very careful, because of course you can talk about a mass event, but in many cases getting on a train will be a mass event, getting on an underground will be a mass event. Where does the limit lie? How do you test? How do you check everybody?
Well, to be specific, are you in favour or not of the idea of a passport for people attending Premier League matches?
No, I wouldn't be, because you're going to have to get to the Premier League match. Are you going to test people on the underground on the way there? Are you going to test people on the bus on the way there? If you're not going to check all of those venues, then effectively what you're doing is you're creating a final barrier when actually the feed-in to that particular event has already caused a, if you like, mass gathering.
So how many Conservative MPs, roughly, how widely is that view shared on the backbenches?
I couldn't tell you. I haven't canvassed any opinion. I'm just merely giving you mine.
What's your hunch, though? I mean, you know, is this a real... I used the word red line in my opening question. Is there a feeling that this is just liberties are being infringed to an unacceptable extent?
I think people are aware that there is a libertarian argument here, or it's simply a liberal argument, actually, not even libertarian, it's simply a liberal argument, that we don't want to go down the route of credit, social credit scoring that some countries have gone down. You know, we're talking at the moment about how do we help people recover from an extraordinary pandemic? How do we help the economy recover from an extraordinary pandemic? But we don't want to be punishing people who are making choices, indeed many of them who are making the right choices for them and getting themselves vaccinated, but it's taking longer than they might like. You know, already young people have given up an enormous amount in the last 2 years for a disease that hasn't affected them as badly as it's affected some of us older folk. And I'd be very, very cautious about punishing young people again.
On the other hand, if you look at the figures, vaccination rates have slowed for young people, younger people. So do you favour, rather than, you know, the carrot of a vaccine passport, sorry, the stick of a vaccine passport, do you favour the carrot of a 250 quid cheque, as the former M&S chairman Stuart Rose suggested on this programme last night?
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure young people are that in need of the carrot in that sense. I mean, a lot of people are very motivated. I mean, you just have to look at the level of volunteering, the level of social assistance that young people give in this country already. I'm sure that the correct motivations will induce many people to get vaccinated. Look, you know, I speak to nephews and nieces and friends who, you know, in their sort of 18 to sort of 25 bracket are getting vaccinated. The only delay for them is getting a slot and getting a dose. Very briefly, was Sajid Javid right to apologise for his tweet? Well, I think he's done absolutely the right thing. He's made clear that he wasn't trying to be insulting or in any way disparaging, and he's just clarified the situation. I think that's right.